I was a big Motown fan, through the 60s and beyond. I mean, who wasn't? It is such infectious, life-affirming music. I don't want to be rude, but anybody who can't find joy in Smokey Robinson, Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, Diana Ross and the Supremes, or the Four Tops may need new ears. Although I loved soul music, in my early years I didn't dare to sing much of it live with my band. It was the same story as with Chuck Berry or the Isley Brothers' Twist and Shout. I wasn't sure that my voice was up to it. My young voice was still quite soft, I suppose, and inexperienced, and those songs were formidable. But I guess your confidence grows with age and experience. And as my career developed, I found myself more willing to tackle music I loved that was maybe outside of my vocal comfort zone. And it meant that when I was offered what sounded a challenging project in 2011, I was willing to give it a go. Gloria Hunniford first made me aware of the idea. Gloria was friends with David Guest, the American TV producer and celebrity who had been married to Liza Minnelli. She told me that David would like to work with me because he thought I could be a great blues singer. Me? A blues singer? Well, that kind of surprised me, but I was intrigued as to what he meant. What kind of thing is he thinking of? I asked Gloria. David thinks that he could get you into a studio with a whole bunch of black soul singers, Glo said, and your voice would blend in really well with them. Maybe a few years earlier, I would have been wary of this idea. But now, I liked it, as soon as I heard it. By then, I'd already duetted with a few unlikely people from Van Morrison to Sarah Brightman. I didn't kid myself that I could sing the same as great black soul singers, but, yeah, I thought I could probably blend in with them. Okay, I told Gloria, if David can arrange it, I'm willing to give it a go. Well, I quickly realized that David certainly could arrange it. Nobody could accuse that man of not being well connected. Within just a few weeks, I found myself in a studio in Memphis recording Soulicious, with a conveyor belt of legendary soul singers, and my jaw was aching from dropping so often. In through the studio door walked Percy Sledge, Denise Williams, Candy Staton, Billy Paul, and Dennis Edwards, the singer from The Temptations. Oh my word, yet despite the illustrious nature of my star guests, I chose all of the tracks that we were to record myself. It's simple. If I'm making an album under my name, I can't record a song I don't like. Perhaps the biggest name of all, though, was the legend that David Guest secured as the album's main producer. Lamont Dozier was one of the greatest songwriters and producers in the history of popular music. And while we were in the studio, he told me so many fantastic stories about working with soul music royalty. As part of the celebrated Holland-Dozier-Holland songwriting triumvirate with the brothers Brian and Eddie Holland, Lamont had penned and produced hits for virtually every Tamala Motown icon. The trio wrote more than 400 songs together. Over 40 of them went to #1 in America. Over 40! The three of us had about 4 or 5 years when we couldn't seem to do anything wrong, Lamont reminisced to me. The songs flowed out of us, and every one of them seemed to become a hit. It meant that everybody wanted to record our songs. Believe me, it was an incredible time. Yet, for all his stellar history and achievements, Lamont Dozier was a down-to-earth and humble man. He was a joy to work with as he began coaxing the best out of me and the soul stars who were turning up in the studio. He G'd us up and put us at our ease, and that is no mean feat. Candy Staton was spectacular to duet with on Teardrops. What a voice! And so was the genius Percy Sledge on I'm Your Puppet. I also love singing How We Get Down with Russell Tompkins Jr., the former singer of the Stylistics, who came in with his new band, the New Stylistics. I would arrive at the studio and find myself singing Are You Feeling Me with Denise Williams, whose voice seemed to be hewn from pure crystal. Yet I didn't try to copy or match those soul greats. I did just my natural, normal thing, and yes, David Guest was right. Our voices all matched and blended beautifully. One day I went in to sing, Go On and Tell Him, with another Motown great, Dennis Edwards, accompanied by a Temptations tribute act called the Temptations Review. I recorded my vocal first in front of them. When I had finished, to my shock, those guys started ladling me with praise. How did you do that? Dennis asked me. Do what? I replied, genuinely thrown. Use your breath like that when you sing. Well, my vocal cords are different from yours, I said, hitting them with my pet theory. Yours are made of concrete. Oh yeah? What are yours made of then? He asked. I smiled and said, cotton wool. And Dennis's band fell about. Lamont Dozier demonstrated his genius when I was singing Oh How Happy with Marilyn McCoo and Billy Davis Jr. from the terrific soul group The Fifth Dimension. We were halfway through the gospel-like song when Lamont told us to stop. This one's not quite there, he pondered. It's going on a bit. We need something in the middle to break it up. Give me a few minutes. Lamont vanished to the back of the studio and started scribbling as we practiced and waited for him. He resurfaced 20 minutes later. This is what we need to do, he said, presenting us with 8 lines of music that he had written there and then, and they were perfect. Wow! Talk about creative talent. After we had recorded the majority of Soulicious, I moved over to a studio in New York in June 2011 to finish the album with the famous husband and wife singer-songwriter and production duo, Nicholas Ashford and Valerie Simpson. Well, if you're going to work with the best soul stars, work with the very best. Nicholas Ashford was great. He was a striking-looking guy with really unusual light grey eyes. Sadly, he wasn't well at that time. He wasn't able to sing on the album and wasn't around the studio to play much part on the production. Valerie told me that her husband was suffering from a real sore throat. Tragically, it was a lot more serious than that. I turned on the TV in Portugal just a few weeks later to learn that Nicholas had died of throat cancer. It was a terrible shock. Lovely guy. At least I got to sing with Valerie. We did a disco song called Every Piece of My Broken Heart, co-written by Lamont Dozier's son Beau. I used falsetto, and Valerie sang like somebody whose throat was woven from pure velvet. Yet again, I thanked my lucky stars to be amidst such towering talents. I certainly did that on the day that Roberta Flack arrived in the New York studio to duet on When I Was Your Baby, although Roberta promptly kicked me out of the room. She hadn't rehearsed a part of the song in advance and didn't want to record in front of me in case she sang any bum notes. How likely was that? But I acceded to the great lady's wishes and left her in the studio with Valerie. I found a Starbucks, sat outside with a latte, and watched New Yorkers going about their daily business. You wouldn't believe it, I told them in my mind, but I'm duetting with Roberta Flack right at this moment. When I got back to the studio, of course, the vocal that Roberta had put down was consummate. I love her voice. It's so smooth and soulful and full of true feeling, but she's never strident or in your face. She's just a natural, instinctual soul singer, a queen of her rarefied game. I had already recorded my vocal, and she was so flattering. She liked the way that I softly exhaled on one of the lines of the song. Seeing you this way just takes my breath away. Yeah, she said with a smile, nodding her head as we listened back to it. Cliff, honey, That breath is the dollars. Roberta Flack is a force of nature, and it was a joy to meet her. It was good to see her again when she came to Barbados a few years ago. After you've been fortunate enough to make a record with some of the greatest soul stars in history, what do you want to do next? Why, you want to go out and sing live with them, of course. David Guest began setting up a Soulicious UK arena tour for the end of 2011. Then suddenly, everything went pear-shaped. I'm not sure exactly why, but David pulled out of promoting the tour just a few weeks before it was due to happen, saying he no longer wanted to be involved. Uh-oh, now what do we do? We had venues booked, artists lined up, tickets on sale. Were we going to have to pull the whole thing? Never. Over my dead body. I've always believed in the old show business adage, the show must go on. I told my management that I still wanted to do the tour. They said it would be possible if all the soul singers remained willing. They did, so we got hold of their tour contracts, and we were quite surprised by them. It seemed the soul stars had all agreed to do the tour for far less money than they were worth. Was it the Chuck Berry story all over again? Black artists being seriously undervalued by the music industry. It sure looked like it. We immediately doubled or even trebled their tour fees. It was the right thing, the only thing to do. They were delighted, naturally, and it made for a positive atmosphere on the Soulicious tour. The camaraderie was fantastic. In any case, it was worth any amount of money to be able to sing live with Freda Payne. Freda Payne! She was truly astonishing. I think I applauded her as hard as the audience did. I also felt blessed to stand on stage night after night and sing I'm Your Puppet with a living legend, Percy Sledge. Percy was not in the best of health. He'd be on oxygen in his dressing room just before we went on. But when he got out in front of the crowd, he still sounded wonderful. Percy gave this great beaming smile every time I spoke to him, or the audience applauded him. One night, my youngest sister Joan came to a concert, and he had her in raptures. "Oh, Cliff, Percy was fantastic on I'm Your Puppet," she told me after the show. "I loved his smile and his singing was beautiful." "Yes, it was, Joan," I agreed, adding, "but what about me?" "Oh, you were okay, Cliff, but Percy was wonderful." Well, fair enough. As I said, I never kidded myself that I can sing the same as soul legends.